Welcome to Revisit Books podcast, where we turn books into bite-sized wisdom you can use every day. Today, we are strapping in for a deep dive into what is arguably the mind's ultimate, yet most underutilized operating system. We're talking about Dr. Joseph Murphy's truly colossal self-help classic, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. This isn't just a book. For millions globally, it has been, a fundamental source promising nothing less than total personal transformation in your wealth, your physical health, your relationships, and your overall happiness.
That's absolutely right. And our mission for this deep dive is a really practical one. We've noticed this book can feel dense, maybe a bit overwhelming, especially if you're new to it. You encounter the jargon, the sheer volume of spiritual concepts. So what we want to do is extract the most actionable, the most straightforward techniques from this really dense and influential text. Our goal is for you, the listener, to walk away with a kind of ready-made mental toolkit, a practical guide to unlocking what Dr. Murphy claims are infinite resources already within you. We're really trying to go beyond just the philosophical ideas and drill down straight to the how-to.
Okay, let's start with the book itself. It was published decades ago, but it's still a massive bestseller internationally. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it boils down to its core promise, which is almost, irresistible. It claims to unveil the profound impact your thoughts, specifically the deeply held beliefs in your subconscious, have on every single outcome in your life. The book basically insists that if you're looking for big change, whether that's fixing relationships, finding career success, or just more happiness, that transformation has to start inside.
And what makes his argument so compelling, so enduring, I think, is his unique approach. It's not purely spiritual, is it? But it's not exactly a dry psychology textbook either.
No, not at all. It's more of a thoughtful, maybe even eclectic blend. He took what he saw as timeless spiritual laws and integrated them with principles of what was considered, contemporary science back in the mid-20th century.
Yeah.
He was really trying to bridge that gap between, let's say, faith and the way the physical world works.
Right, that spiritual component you mentioned. It's heavily rooted in the New Thought movement, isn't it? That seems key to understanding Murphy.
Absolutely foundational. Yeah, the New Thought movement was big in the late 19th, early 20th centuries. It emphasized the inherent divinity and, crucially, the power of the individual mind. Its core ideas are that God, or what they might call the life principle, is everywhere, and, this is the kicker, that human thought itself is a creative force. A force capable of mastering circumstances. It really shifted the focus from some distant God intervening to the creative power sitting right inside your own mind.
That distinction really is key, isn't it? New Thought wasn't about just sitting back and waiting for things to happen. It was about actively creating your reality through disciplined, positive mental effort.
Exactly. It was a hugely empowering message. And Murphy delivered it with these simple, practical techniques, the ones we're going to dig into. And he coupled them with these very specific, very compelling, real-world stories, anecdotes, to show people exactly how to harness these inner unseen forces. He made the esoteric feel, concrete, immediately usable.
So tell us a bit more about the man himself, Dr. Joseph Murphy.
Sure. Born in Ireland, 1898, he moved to the U.S. and became a really prominent author, speaker, lecturer, hugely successful. He led the Church of Divine Science in Los Angeles for almost 30 years. He'd lecture to thousands, literally thousands of people every single Sunday. And as we said, a key figure in that New Thought movement. Traveled the world, wrote a ton of books.
And his background seems important for understanding how he put these ideas together.
Right.
He wasn't just focused on spirituality, right?
No, he was deeply influenced by philosophy, Eastern traditions, but also scientific thought, particularly psychological principles as they were understood back then. So this kind of dual approach meant his work appealed to a broad audience, people looking for spiritual growth, but also people wanting a practical, almost mechanism-based path to improving their lives. And it was all anchored by this lifelong dedication he had to helping people unlock their potential.
Right. He kept emphasizing the practical application, didn't he? Positive thinking, visualization, what he called practical wisdom.
Yes, exactly. He didn't see the mind as some abstract thing. It was the ultimate tool, a tangible tool for looking inward and for changing your actual real-world situation. He really stressed that just reading the book wasn't enough. You had to practice the techniques to see results. You had to do the work.
Okay, so who is this deep dive really for? If you're listening now, who's going to get the most out of this? I'd say it's for anyone feeling genuinely stuck. Limited, maybe. Maybe you're wrestling with nagging fears or persistent doubts or just that modern feeling of being overwhelmed by information. You should be doing something different, but you just can't see the path. If you feel like your potential is way bigger than your current reality, well, this could be your map.
Definitely. And if you're searching for that kind of master key, a systematic shortcut, maybe to access what the book calls infinite wealth and potential that's supposedly hiding inside you, then Murphy's teachings really act as the operational blueprint for that.
Which brings us straight to the foundation of the whole book, the treasure house within you. Murphy argues, really emphatically, that everyone possesses this infinite wealth, power, health, potential, and it's all accessible right now through the subconscious mind. But most people are just, well, unaware of this huge internal resource. They live constrained lives.
Yeah, and this is where we get to what Murphy often calls the master secret. The secret to everything, success, wealth, health, happiness, is this marvelous miracle-working power found right there in your own subjective subconscious mind. It's not out there somewhere. It's not magic. It's an internal, natural mechanism just waiting for you to direct it.
He uses a fantastic analogy for this, doesn't he? The magnetized man. Could you unpack that for us? It really drives the point home.
Sure. He says, picture a piece of steel. If you magnetize that steel, it gains power, right? It can lift, say, about 12 times its own weight. Now, take that exact same piece of steel, same material, but completely demagnetize it. Instantly, it becomes weak. It can't even lift a feather. Murphy argues that human success, prosperity, effectiveness, it all hinges on whether you are magnetized. Meaning, are you consciously harnessing this inner energy, this inner belief, and directing it constructively towards your goals? Or are you demagnetized?
That's such a clear illustration. Potential versus execution. The raw material is the same in everyone, but it's the inner configuration, the magnetism, that dictates the results. It implies everyone has the raw material for greatness, but most of us are just walking around demagnetized.
Yeah, exactly. And to achieve that magnetism, you first have to grasp this fundamental concept of the duality of mind. Murphy says you have two distinct functions, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind, that's the rational, analytical, thinking part. He calls it the gardener. It makes choices, reasons things out. The subconscious mind, though, is irrational. It's non-discerning. It operates automatically. He calls it the fertile soil.
Okay, so the gardener and the fertile soil.
Okay.
And here's the kicker, the immediate, massive burden of responsibility. The conscious mind, the gardener, has to be constantly vigilant about the quality of the seeds it plants in that soil.
Precisely.
It has to consciously choose positive, constructive thoughts, seeds of health, wealth, love, and deliberately reject the negative, destructive ones, fear, lack, limitation. Because if you plant weeds, even in the richest soil, you're going to get weeds. The subconscious doesn't edit, it just grows whatever you give it.
Right. And the promise of transformation here is systematic. It's not random. By consistently shifting these internal thought patterns, using targeted positive reinforcement, Murphy insists you will transform your external circumstances. It's a total inside-out model. Puts the power squarely in your hands.
But hang on, that feels like a massive weight. If my thoughts create my entire reality, does Murphy imply I'm responsible for every single bad thing that's ever happened to me? That seems, well, potentially crushing, especially if someone's already dealing with misfortune.
That's a really important and critical question, and Murphy addresses it, but not with guilt. He frames it as empowerment. He'd say you're only responsible for the thoughts you consciously choose to dwell upon habitually, your dominant mental patterns. If you habitually hold thoughts of fear or lack or victimhood, then yes, the subconscious will tend to manifest a reality reflecting that general vibration. But his focus isn't on blaming you for the past, it's on shifting the habit now. The moment you shift your habitual thinking from, say, I'm powerless to I am the captain of my soul, as he puts it, the whole trajectory of your destiny starts to shift. Regardless of past events. He's essentially saying, don't beat yourself up about the past. Just start planting better seeds right now.
Okay, that makes more sense. Focus on the present action. All right, let's unpack this further. This is where we get straight into the practical how-to. We've organized the most powerful lessons and insights straight from Dr. Murphy's deep dive into the subconscious to give you the most actionable stuff. Let's start with key takeaway 1. Really understanding how your mind works, this duality and suggestibility idea.
Yeah, we need to really nail down the distinction between these two levels of mind. Everything else Murphy teaches flows directly from this basic operating model.
Okay, so let's detail the conscious mind again. Murphy called it the objective mind. This is your everyday thinking mind, right? Your analytical processor. It reasons, thinks critically, compares things, makes choices. It uses the 5 senses to interact with the outside world. And crucially, it acts as the watchman at the gate.
Exactly, the gatekeeper.
It performs a kind of triage, deciding which thoughts get accepted and passed down to the deeper mind. It's the part that says, hold on, is that really true?
Right. Now contrast that with the subconscious mind, the subjective mind. This is the irrational, non-selective internal operating system. It runs all your vital bodily functions, heartbeat, digestion, breathing. It stores all your memories, your habits, and here's the critical part. It accepts any idea handed down by the conscious mind without arguing, without questioning its validity.
Like fertile soil accepting any seed.
Precisely. It doesn't judge, doesn't filter, it just implements. So if the conscious mind, the watchman, accepts a lie as true, the subconscious starts building a reality around that lie.
Wow. And this fundamental mechanism leads directly to what he calls the law of action and reaction.
Yes. Murphy states very clearly that every single thought you habitually entertain is, by definition, a cause, the action. And every condition that manifests in your life, your health, your finances, your relationships, is the corresponding effect, the reaction. If you consistently feed your mind good, constructive thoughts, good must follow. If you feed it chaos, negativity, fear, well, chaos or difficulty inevitably follows. He saw it as a universal, almost mechanical law.
And this immediate link between thought and reality happens because the subconscious is so incredibly suggestible.
Exactly. Because it doesn't reason or debate the objective truth of an idea, it just accepts suggestions, whether they're true or false. Murphy often used evidence from hypnosis experiments to demonstrate this power. It's quite startling, actually. Subjects in deep hypnosis, if given a suggestion like, there's acid on your hand, can actually manifest physical symptoms, redness, even blistering.
Just from the suggestion.
Just from the suggestion. Because the subjective mind accepted the idea as reality and immediately triggered the corresponding physiological response.
That's incredible. It really highlights the mind's power over the body. If it can create disease symptoms from a false idea, imagine what it can do for health and well-being with a true, constructive idea.
Precisely. And that's where we leverage this power through autosuggestion. This is the practical bit. It's deliberately feeding the subjective mind positive beliefs to overcome fears, bad habits, or undesirable conditions. Murphy shared that great story about the young singer crippled by stage fright. Remember that?
Yeah, she didn't just hope it would go away.
No, she actively reprogrammed her mind. She'd find a quiet place multiple times a day and affirm out loud with feeling something like, I possess a marvelous voice, I sing beautifully, I am confident and capable, I am singing with joy.
So she wasn't denying the fear existed at first. She was actively overriding it, drowning it out with a stronger, more persistent, and emotionally charged counterstory.
Exactly. By persistently repeating this new, positive internal script, she essentially bypassed the old, crippling fear response. She replaced it with an expectation of confidence. And that allowed her to nail her audition, whereas before, sheer willpower and anxiety just made it worse. It shows that overcoming mental blocks isn't about fighting the negative thought head-on. It's about substituting it with a more powerful, positive one until the positive one takes root.
Okay, that makes sense. Substitution, not confrontation. So let's move to key takeaway 2. The practical techniques for actually impregnating the subconscious, as Murphy puts it, planting those seeds effectively.
Right. And the overarching principle here, the philosophical bedrock, is the absolute necessity of faith and expectancy.
Explain that a bit more. What did you mean by faith?
Yeah, Murphy is really uncompromising on this. He says all successful methods, whether it's healing, achieving goals, even prayer, rely entirely on the subconscious mind's response to faith. But he defines faith not as some blind religious dogma, but as a mental attitude, a deep-seated belief coupled with an intense expectation of a positive outcome. The results, he says, come purely from the strength of your internal conviction, your inner acceptance. That's the real mechanism, not the external ritual or object you might use.
Okay, so it's about achieving that internal conviction. Let's look at the specific techniques you recommended. You mentioned 3 key ones.
Yes. Let's start with technique A, visualization, the blueprint.
Ah, the mental imagery technique. This one's quite well known.
It is. Murphy argues that your thoughts, especially your vivid mental images, literally serve as the blueprint for your life. A mental picture that you hold firmly in your mind, backed up with genuine feeling and faith. He insists it must eventually be brought into reality by the creative power of the subconscious.
But it's more than just daydreaming, right? How do you make it effective?
It needs sensory immersion. That pharmacist anecdote he tells is a perfect example. The guy didn't just vaguely think, I want a new store. No, he got specific. He committed the details to his mind's eye, the exact layout, the color of the paint, the shiny new equipment, the feeling of serving happy customers, even the smell of the inventory.
He lived it internally first.
Exactly. He acted as if he already owned it. He made the mental picture so real, so vivid, that his subjective mind accepted it as current reality. And then, the subconscious started orchestrating external events, opportunities, resources to match that internal blueprint.
So it's active mental construction. Like the young man visualizing his doctor's diploma, he didn't just look at the image passively. He accepted the fact of it in his mind. He felt the reality of being a doctor.
Right. And Murphy says the art and science of true prayer is precisely this. Visualize your desire as already accomplished. Accept that reality wholeheartedly, with gratitude, before it even appears in the physical world.
Okay, that's visualization. What's technique B?
Technique B, the passing over technique. This one is specifically designed to strategically bypass the critical, often skeptical, conscious mind.
How does that work?
The goal is to induce a state of reverie or drowsiness, that kind of fuzzy state right before you fall asleep or just as you're waking up. In those moments, your brain waves naturally slow down, the conscious mind, the watchman at the gate, lowers its guard, and the subconscious becomes much more receptive to suggestion.
But getting into that state consistently can be tricky. A lot of people find their minds race, especially at night. Any tips on achieving that calmness?
Murphy advises focusing on deep physical and mental relaxation. Slow, rhythmic breathing can help. Maybe visualizing a peaceful scene, but the absolute key is avoiding effort. You don't strain, you just calmly, peacefully think of your desires as already coming true. State them in simple, short, positive phrases. Feel the feeling of it being done, and just allow the subconscious to accept the request without your conscious mind jumping in to argue or analyze. Tranquility is essential.
This sounds like it connects directly to that concept that can be really hard for driven type A people. The law of reversed effort.
Absolutely. If you strain, if you try to force it with willpower, if you apply excessive mental coercion, you create an immediate conflict. Your conscious mind is pushing for the goal, but your imagination might be picturing failure, or the effort involved creates tension. This internal conflict, Murphy says, almost always guarantees failure. The subconscious resists force.
So the mantra really is, easy does it.
Exactly. You have to surrender the goal to the deeper mind. Trust it. Let go of the anxiety about how it's going to happen. The moment you start obsessing over the means, the how, you introduce doubt. And doubt is the poison that negates the faith required for the subconscious to work its magic.
Relax, trust, let go. Okay. And the third technique.
Technique C, the thank you technique. This one sounds simple, but it's structurally quite profound. It uses gratitude as a mechanism for pre-acceptance. Instead of begging or pleading for something in the future, you focus intensely on expressing gratitude now, as if your desire has already been fulfilled. You have to genuinely feel the emotion of relief, the joy, the sense of ownership right here, right now.
So you're aligning your feeling state with the completed outcome.
Precisely. This reinforces an internal mindset of abundance and possession, rather than one of lack or need. Murphy firmly believed that the thankful heart is always close to the riches of the universe. Gratitude places you in harmony with universal supply, attracting more things to be grateful for. It's a powerful feedback loop.
Visualization, passing over, thank you. 3 powerful tools. Okay, let's move to key takeaway 3. Applying these principles to key areas of life. Money, success, health. Big topics. Let's start with money and wealth consciousness.
Right. Murphy is really adamant about this. Financial difficulties aren't just random external events. They indicate a failure somewhere along the line to convince your subconscious mind of abundance. Wealth, he asserts, is fundamentally a mental conviction. It's an inner feeling.
So just repeating I am wealthy might not work if your conscious mind is screaming liar based on your current bank balance. That creates conflict.
Exactly. That creates conflict. The affirmation has to resonate. You need to cultivate the feeling of wealth, of security, of abundance first.
So if that big direct affirmation, I am wealthy, feels like too much of a leap and creates that mental conflict, what's the practical workaround?
You use conflict-free statements that establish progressive prosperity. Statements the conscious mind can accept more easily. The example he gives is excellent. By day and by night, I am being prospered in all my interests.
Okay. That feels different. It's about movement, progress.
Yes. It's a statement of positive direction and well-being. The conscious mind finds it harder to argue against that because it implies steady growth, not some unbelievable overnight transformation. And crucially, you absolutely must stop what he calls negative mental check writing.
What was that?
Those habitual thoughts about not having enough, about impending bills, about scarcity, about there's not enough to go around. Every time you think like that, you're mentally reinforcing lack in your subconscious.
Got it. He also tackles the morality of money quite directly, doesn't he? With the idea of your right to riches.
He does. He states very clearly that poverty is like a mental disease and there's no virtue in it. He urges people to cleanse their minds of deep-seated, often superstitious or overly puritanical beliefs about money being inherently evil or dirty. Money, he says, is simply a neutral symbol, a medium of exchange, a tool for freedom and utility. Desiring it, wanting a richer, fuller life is natural and healthy, provided your intention is constructive.
And part of that cleansing involves looking at how we view others' success, the danger of envy.
Yes, this is huge. If you entertain envious or resentful thoughts about other people's success, you immediately put yourself in a state of vibrational disharmony. It's pure scarcity thinking. And that mindset actually causes wealth and opportunity to flow away from you, not towards you.
So what's the secret then? How do you counteract envy?
The secret, Murphy says, is actually counterintuitive for many people. Genuinely celebrate others' success. Sincerely wish them well, wish them even more abundance. By doing that, you reinforce your own belief in universal abundance. You affirm that there is enough, and you open the doors for your own prosperity to flow in. You align yourself with success.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, let's talk about true success and purpose.
Yeah.
How did Murphy define success? It wasn't just about money for him, was it?
Not at all. He defined true success as successful living. And that was characterized primarily by an inner state. Peace of mind, joy, harmony, happiness. Material wealth might be a natural byproduct of achieving that inner state, but it wasn't the core measure of success itself. Real success, he believed, generated treasures within your subconscious internal security, unshakable, calm things that couldn't be touched by external events like stock market crashes or job losses.
And he laid out 3 clear steps for achieving this kind of integrated, meaningful success.
Yes, very practical. Step 1, discover and pursue your passion. Find out what you truly love to do, what brings you alive. Follow that path. Step 2, specialization. Commit to becoming exceptionally good at what you love. Become the most knowledgeable, the most competent, the most useful person you can be in that specific area. Let genuine interest, not just duty, fuel your mastery.
Be the best you can be in your chosen field.
Exactly. And step 3, altruism. Ensure that your goals, your work, ultimately benefit not just yourself, but humanity in some way, large or small. This final step, he believed, completes the circuit of giving and receiving. It guarantees not just external success, but deep internal fulfillment and alignment with the life principle.
Love it. Specialize, serve others. Okay, moving on to another huge area, miracle working power, health and healing. Viewing the body as an expression of the subconscious.
Right. His core idea here is that the subconscious is the healer. Capital T, capital H. It's the tireless 24/7 operator running the whole show, cell division, immune responses, blood flow, everything. And its fundamental tendency is always, always inherently lifeward, meaning its primary directive is to maintain health, restore balance, what science calls homeostasis, at all costs. Illness, Murphy believed, is actually abnormal. It arises when we negate this inherent life principle with persistent fear, destructive thoughts, deep-seated guilt, or resentment.
And this explains why things like ancient healing practices, shrine cures, placebos, and modern medicine can sometimes achieve similar results.
Exactly. Because the ultimate mechanism, according to Murphy, is the same. The subconscious mind's response to powerful faith and expectation. It wasn't necessarily the specific shrine or the herb or the ritual itself that healed. It was the intense subjective faith of the person receiving the treatment that mobilized their own inner healing force. The subconscious responded to the belief.
So how do we consciously aid our health using this principle today?
Well, the aids to health involve, first, consciously acknowledging this immense innate healing capacity within you. Believe in it. Then deliberately visualize your desired health outcome as if it's your current reality. Focus intently on thoughts of wholeness, perfection, vitality. Crucially, Murphy emphasized not dwelling on your symptoms or ailments. If you keep focusing on the problem, you're just reinforcing the pattern of illness in your subconscious. Focus instead on the perfection of the life principle expressing itself through you.
He even shared a personal story about healing himself this way, didn't he?
Yes, he spoke about resolving a skin malignancy through persistent affirmative thought focused on perfect health and divine order.
Powerful stuff. Okay, finally, in this section, let's touch on creativity and problem solving. It's not just for self-help, right? Even practical people like scientists use this power.
Oh, absolutely. Renowned figures certainly did. Think of Nikola Tesla, the brilliant inventor. He apparently used his subconscious extensively. He would mentally picture his complex inventions fully formed, running perfectly in his mind's eye, trusting his deeper mind to work out all the intricate engineering details, and reports suggest it often did, flawlessly.
Wow.
Or consider the Nobel laureate, Dr. Frederick Banting. He was struggling intensely with figuring out how to isolate insulin. The story goes, he consciously turned the problem over to his subconscious right before falling asleep one night. He woke up with the precise, inspired idea, the exact procedure that led directly to the breakthrough discovery.
So what's the practical technique for us, the listeners, when we're facing a tough problem or need a creative solution?
The technique is seeking guidance. Consciously turn your problem or question over to your subconscious mind. A great time to do this is right before sleep, in that drowsy, receptive state we talked about earlier. But here's the critical step. You must genuinely believe that the answer exists and that it is forthcoming. And it really helps if you can pre-feel the joy, the relief, the satisfaction of having the solution now. That emotional acceptance signals to your subconscious that the answer is needed and expected, prompting it to go to work.
Turn it over, believe, feel the solution.
Got it.
Okay, let's move to the final set of takeaways. Key takeaway 4. Overcoming those stubborn negative patterns. Fear, bad habits, and the importance of forgiveness.
Right, because the subconscious, while incredibly powerful for good, is also the storage unit for all our negative programming, stuff built up over years of, repetitive mistakes or fearful thinking. Let's start with habits and mental blocks.
Habits. Murphy saw them simply as automatic functions of the subconscious, right? Formed by doing something over and over until it becomes second nature, a reflex.
Exactly. And the power to change lies entirely in that same principle, but in reverse. Replacement, replacing one repetitive action or thought pattern with another more desirable one.
So how do you break a bad habit effectively using this?
Murphy stressed that the desire to quit, the desire for the new reality, must reach a tipping point. He had a great phrase for it. You need to be 51% healed.
51%, meaning the desire for the positive has to just slightly outweigh the pull of the negative.
Precisely. You have to feel, even if just barely, that the freedom and joy of the new habit are slightly greater than the familiar comfort or payoff of the old destructive one. Once that positive desire is stronger, then you can effectively use the law of substitution we mentioned earlier. You deliberately replace the negative mental picture associated with the bad habit with a vivid, compelling image of the new positive habit. And you focus intensely on the feeling, the freedom, the joy, the peace associated with that desired outcome.
Like the classic example he used of Mr. Jones overcoming alcoholism. He didn't just fight the urge to drink.
No, he changed his entire internal movie. He relentlessly visualized a happy, stable family life. He felt the joy of being sober and present with his loved ones. He successfully replaced the destructive craving with a constructive, emotionally charged image through focused mental repetition until the new image became dominant in his subconscious. It wasn't about fighting the drink. It was about falling in love with the new life more.
Love the new life more. That's a great way to put it. Okay, next up, conquering fear. Murphy called fear the major obstacle to pretty much everything good.
He really did. And he argued that most fears are abnormal, unfounded. They're purely self-created destructive thoughts, usually based on projecting negative possibilities into the future. Essentially, misdirected mental energy, misdirected imagination.
So what's the antidote? How do you tackle fear head on?
The antidote is straightforward, but it definitely requires courage. Action is the antidote. Murphy often quoted Ralph Waldo Emerson on this. Do the thing you were afraid to do, and the death of fear is certain.
Face the fear.
Yes. By confronting the feared situation, you often find that the objective reality is far less terrifying than the mental monster you created. Taking action diminishes the fear's power over you.
And alongside action, there's the mental component, again, substitution.
Always substitution. The great law of substitution is the ultimate answer to fear on the mental plane. You consciously replace those negative, fearful, destructive images and thoughts with constructive, positive thoughts of security, confidence, faith, and positive outcomes. Think about the executive with the severe elevator phobia that Murphy described. He didn't just keep avoiding elevators. That would reinforce the fear.
Right. What did he do?
He actively worked to overcome the panic by consistently blessing the elevator. He would affirm its positive function, its safety, its usefulness. He mentally filled his mind with thoughts of peace and security while approaching and writing it. He thereby substituted the terror with a conscious, positive belief until his subconscious accepted the new reality and the phobia dissolved.
Blessing the elevator. That's an interesting approach. Okay, finally, and this feels fundamentally important, the universal principle of forgiveness.
Murphy considered this absolutely non-negotiable for both mental and physical well-being.
Absolutely essential. He argued that life itself, or the life principle, the universe, God, whatever term you use, forgives automatically. It holds no grudges. It's always seeking harmony. All the resistance, the misery, the suffering, the ill health we experience often stems entirely from our own destructive thinking patterns. Self-condemnation, holding on to resentment, bitterness, the desire to blame others or external forces or even God.
Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Exactly that famous saying. It harms you.
So forgiveness is essential for health, he argued, because those negative emotions, resentment, hatred, sustained hostility, are like massive mental toxins.
Yes, and modern psychosomatic medicine increasingly supports this link. These negative emotional states can often contribute to or exacerbate physical ailments. Forgiveness, in Murphy's view, is essentially aligning your thoughts and feelings back with the inherent divine law of harmony and peace. It's releasing the heavy emotional burden of the past. This frees up your subconscious mind to focus its energy on healing, health, and prosperity instead of being bogged down by old grievances.
But forgiveness can be really, really hard. How do you know if you've truly forgiven someone, or even yourself? What's the benchmark?
Murphy offered what he called the acid test. It's a tough one, but clear. The acid test is this. Can you think of the person who wronged you? The situation that caused you pain without feeling any accompanying anger or resentment? And can you genuinely, sincerely wish that person or yourself, well, peace, harmony, all the blessings of life?
Wow. No anger and genuinely wishing them well.
Yes. If you can honestly pass that emotional test, then the mental block is gone. The emotional charge is neutralized. You are truly free from the psychological damage that person or event once represented in your mind. You've achieved true forgiveness.
Okay, that's a high bar, but a clear one. Right, we've covered a lot of Murphy's core techniques and applications. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, as you said earlier. We need to bring in some critical interpretation and balance. We've just laid out Murphy's powerfully compelling internal framework, this idea that inner belief and directed thought alone can transform circumstances. But we owe it to you, the listener, to kind of, well, balance this intense inner focus with the realities of the external world.
Absolutely. It's crucial. While Murphy's framework is incredibly empowering and I believe holds immense truth, a responsible analysis has to suggest we proceed with, let's say, nuanced understanding. It's really important not to underplay the complexity of external factors, factors that exist completely outside of an individual's personal thought patterns.
Like what, specifically?
Well, think about things like deep-seated socioeconomic inequalities, systemic discrimination, lack of access to education or healthcare, geopolitical instability. These are real, tangible barriers. While a positive mindset is undoubtedly helpful in navigating these challenges, these systemic issues aren't magically erased just by positive thinking alone.
Right. It feels like a significant leap to suggest that internal mindset is the only variable that matters. Positive thought can absolutely change your reaction to those barriers, maybe help you find creative solutions within them, but the barriers themselves often remain concrete and require concrete external, often collective action to actually dismantle. Affirming abundance doesn't automatically change unfair laws, for instance.
Precisely. And we see this need for nuance very clearly in areas like, say, chronic mental health struggles or deep-seated relationship problems. Murphy might suggest using positive affirmations to foster marital harmony, which is good advice as far as it goes. However, empirical psychological research, particularly from fields like couples therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, strongly emphasizes the undeniable need for tangible skills in the objective world. Things like active listening, effective communication strategies, negotiation, learning actual conflict resolution techniques.
Yeah, you can affirm my marriage is harmonious all day long. But if you consistently refuse to actually talk through real-world disagreements or address unmet needs with your partner, the conflict is likely to persist, isn't it? The internal work needs external expression.
Exactly. That distinction between internal healing or mindset shifting and the necessary external action or skill building is vital. We have to balance the subjective principle, the power of belief, with empirical support and real-world application. Most modern psychological approaches indicate that a multifaceted approach is usually required for lasting change. You need to balance those powerful subjective tools, belief, visualization, affirmation, with concrete, measurable, and sometimes difficult actions out there in the real world.
So Murphy provides the mental foundation, the engine maybe, but not necessarily the entire roadmap or the driving lessons.
That's a good way to put it. He provides the engine and maybe even the fuel, the positive thought, the belief, but you are still absolutely required to do the driving. You still need to take the action, whether that's studying for the exam you visualize passing, having that difficult conversation with your partner, developing the business plan for the company you dreamed of, or seeking professional help when needed. The power of the subconscious makes the action more effective, maybe even possible where it wasn't before, but it rarely eliminates the need for the action itself.
Okay, that's a really important clarification. So given these potential limitations or required nuances, what's the ultimate value proposition here? Why does this book endure? Why do we still highly recommend engaging with his ideas?
I think the book's immense. Enduring value lies squarely in highlighting the vast, often completely untapped power we have in directing our internal world, our thought patterns, our beliefs, our feelings. This internal work is the crucial, frequently overlooked first step. Regardless of the external challenges you face, whether they're economic, systemic, relational, physical, consciously, directing the creative power of your own mind is arguably a necessary prerequisite to taking effective, aligned action in the real world.
How so?
Because it helps remove the mental self-sabotage. It reduces the paralyzing fear that often stops us from acting. It gives you that inner magnetism, that resilience, that sense of possibility required to even approach the external challenge constructively in the first place.
So it provides the essential mental and emotional capital required before you can effectively invest any physical effort or resources. Without the inner belief, the inner alignment, any external effort is much more likely to falter or crumble under pressure or doubt.
Precisely. It sets the stage for success. It makes you receptive to opportunities you might otherwise miss. It gives you the inner fortitude to persist when things get tough. It's the foundation upon which effective action is built.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's the starting point, the inner game that enables the outer game. All right, let's wrap this up with some closing thoughts. So, after this deep dive, what does this all really mean for you, the listener, as you move forward? If we had to distill the entire essence of Dr. Murphy's teachings down to one core secret, what would it be?
I think the ultimate secret, the core message that echoes throughout the book, is profoundly simple yet revolutionary. You are the captain of your soul. You are the master of your destiny. And the mechanism for that mastery is the power of your own subconscious mind.
Change your thoughts, change your destiny.
That's the essence of it. But it's not passive. It demands consistent, conscious vigilance and choice. Daily choice. You have to actively choose health in your thoughts. Choose love, choose happiness, choose abundance every single day, not just when you feel like it. Your job, essentially, is to set the clear intention, provide that vivid mental blueprint, maybe using visualization or the thank you technique, often best done in that drowsy, receptive state. And then you have to trust the subconscious mind, that tireless life word builder, that infinitely intelligent operating system within you, to work out the details and deliver the necessary outcomes, resources, ideas, often through unexpected paths of least resistance. Set the what, trust the how.
Set the intention, trust the process. I like that. And here's a final provocative thought for everyone to carry with them, something to maybe keep you inspired long after this discussion ends. Dr. Murphy asserted something quite profound. The subconscious mind itself never ages. It is timeless, ageless, and endless. Physical aging is a biological fact, but mental and spiritual aging, that, he suggested, is largely optional.
It's a beautiful thought, isn't it? He believed that by consciously, deliberately cultivating those ageless spiritual qualities, things like patience, kindness, wisdom, gratitude, love, forgiveness, joy, humor, the things that truly never decay or go out of style, you can ensure that you stay vibrant, adaptable, mentally flexible, and young in spirit forever, regardless of the number of years showing on your birth certificate. The inner mental landscape is one place where eternal youth is always a possibility. Cultivate the timeless qualities.
Stay young in spirit forever. A fantastic note to end on. That's today's breakdown. While this discussion cannot replace the book's full text, it can offer a glimpse into its teachings. I hope you found this discussion helpful, and I look forward to sharing more. Let me know what book next you want to discuss.